So I actually just released the video on the secondary channel, which is from when we were playing Guild Wars 2, and I was talking about how the Blizzard situation has had a bit of a ripple effect to the rest of the industry, where there's a lot of MMOs essentially benefiting from the fact that World of Warcraft is bleeding players. And I'm not saying that this is a fantastic thing for everyone, because obviously for World of Warcraft players it sucks. For Blizzard employees that have suffered from abuse it sucks. But you know, I talked about how ultimately it's had a bit of a rejuvenating effect on the MMO industry as a whole. And I just saw that there was a Strife Hayes video where he talks about MMOs growing again. I don't think that, you know, the Blizzard situation is going to be what is mentioned here, because it would have been whoa. Train just went by and started honking. Because it would have been way too soon for those ripples to be felt to the extent where MMOs are growing again. It just seems like there's more companies developing MMOs overall for some strange reason. I don't know exactly what the reason is, but let's see what Strife Hayes has to say about it.
The MMORPG genre has experienced somewhat of a renaissance. The status quo has been shaken up and the dominance of the old guard is being challenged. New studios are bringing out new games, new players are flooding in and discovering the joys of the MMO, while old players are questioning long-held beliefs about game design. Is the MMO about to have a rebirth within the gaming landscape?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Strife Hayes. The MMORPG is a fantastic genre with millions of players around the world. Players enjoy the mechanics of the MMO, creating a character, leveling, dungeons, raiding, leveling up your skills, and having your own adventure online. And yet many people have been saying, since around 2016, the genre has been going downhill. Is that
because
about to change? Was it true at all? Let's have a look at the state of the genre as it is right now, and see if we're going through somewhat of an MMO renaissance.
Before we begin, if you want to support the channel,
I think though, but before we go any further, I think that definitely we saw a downward trend in the MMO genre, because a lot of people were they couldn't figure out what exactly made MMOs so appealing, so they were just trying to like go after that World of Warcraft money. Like, let's get real, there were a lot of companies that the sole reason they created an MMO is like, oh dude, I want a piece of that pie. I want a piece of that pie. And they just started going after WoW, which was obviously not the best idea, as we've come to find. But you know, some of those MMOs ended up developing into really cool experiences, like we've talked about recently about Guild Wars 2, how that's improved significantly. Also tested out ESO, how that's improved significantly. I'm probably going to be doing a video soon on the secondary channel where I'll talk about my experience with all of these MMOs, because it's been very interesting playing a bunch of MMOs over the last couple of days and kind of like re-experiencing what is essentially the genre where I really started getting into gaming, like hardcore level of hours, just like playing through it, right? But yeah, let's keep going.
Channel for free, you can like the video or sub for more MMO stuff, ring the bell for all the future notifications, and a special thank you to all those who support via Patreon or Twitch. More on how you can do this at the end. For now, let's begin. Back in February 2021, MMORPG YouTuber The Lazy Peon put out the excellent video The Absolute State of the MMORPG Genre. In the video, he laments the financial support that's been shown to other genres such as battle royales and first-person shooters, while the MMO has sadly been left behind. But why is this? Well, back in 1997, the world was introduced to Ultima Online. Then 2 years later, in 1999, EverQuest arrived, and thus began...
Dude, Ultima Online was amazing. Ultima Online was friggin' amazing. And I only played on private servers. But still, Ultima Online. Yeah.
Began one of the greatest gaming rivalries. The MMORPG had two franchise titans, and EverQuest and Ultima actually remained surprisingly close to each other in popularity for many years. Then along came Asheron's call to challenge them both, and while never taking the crown, it did extremely well. Then more games arrived, and the MMORPG genre had a healthy, real-world gaming meta.
Asheron's Call was actually the MMORPG that Wreckful used to play.
One game dominated. No one style was vastly superior. The game selection was smaller than today, but the player base was stable between all of them. Then came the MMORPG boom. World of Warcraft, RuneScape, Guild Wars, Anarchy Online, Ragnarok Online, Final Fantasy XI, EVE, Toontown Online, Lineage 2, Second Life, City of Heroes. The MMORPG gold rush had begun.
Companies knew there was money to be made in the MMORPG landscape, but as of yet, the specific design structure wasn't known. Fantasy or sci-fi? Action combat or tab target combat? Player versus player or player versus environment? The meta of the MMORPG design hadn't yet been solved, and this meant there was lovely creative chaos. When there is no structure for how to design something for the biggest financial gain, then creative people just throw multiple ideas out and see what works. You have to take the risk when there's no blueprint to copy, and it's this risk that leads to fantastic, interesting, creative situations. We don't know what we're going to get. Something might work. It's the same as when an MMORPG releases a new patch or a new dungeon or a new update. Players don't know what works. We don't know what the best item to use is. We don't know what the best setup is. And it's this lovely chaos, this beauty of the unknown that allows us to be so creative. It's taking the risks that gives us the creative rewards. Everyone had been thrown into chaos. Companies didn't know what to design, and the meta of the MMO design hadn't yet been solved. This gave us so many different games.
The early to mid era of the MMORPG was similar to the early to mid era of the mobile phone. Companies were throwing some crazy designs at the wall and seeing what worked, what the public would actually respond well to. If you were a kid in the late 90s, mid 2000s like I was, you'll probably remember everyone having a different mobile phone with a different operating system and a different charging cable. It was a wild time for design. And these crazy wild situations are absolute breeding grounds for creativity. When no one knows what will work, or when you've got multiple styles all working equally well, people are driven to find unique solutions, ideas, and styles. It's a designer's paradise when the correct choice, financially, isn't known. And then, the risks they take start to pay off. But one paid off more than the others. World of Warcraft. Slowly, one MMO emerged as the king and began to make all the money. Now, from a design standpoint, the emergence of a single dominating system means one thing. The clones are coming. When the audience is young and the design space is fresh, risk is the best business strategy because the chance of success is equal roughly everywhere. But when the audience is known, risk becomes a terrible tactic. If you want to make guaranteed money, you'll just copy what works. With Warcraft dominating and EverQuest creeping ahead of Ultima, the standard was being set. If you were a company making an MMO, you likely wanted a third-person fantasy game with classes, tab-target combat, and grindy gameplay with endgame dungeons and raids as your focus. It was proven to work. The formula had been found.
One of the worst things that can happen to a creative space is the design within it becoming solved. Once you know the best set of steps to take to achieve a certain goal, you'd be a fool not to take them. In Warhammer 40k, if a certain army becomes all-powerful and all-dominant, you'd be an idiot not to play the army. In Magic the Gathering, if one deck became unbeatable, you'd want to play the deck. In any MMORPG, once the meta is known, how to play your class, you play your class in that way. It takes away the freedom and the creativity, and designing a game is no different. Once companies knew how to build an MMORPG for the maximum return on investment, everyone did that.
They did.
If your goal is victory or profit, you'd be a fool not to follow the meta. This kills design. I'm not blaming World of Warcraft specifically for homogenizing the genre. If it hadn't been that one, another game would have. It just happened to be the game that found the specific combination of franchise recognition and design style that appealed to a lot of people. And now designers knew that taking risks wasn't worth it. Risking success in a chaotic landscape with everyone else also risking is potentially lucrative. Risking when you've already got a guaranteed method of success is not appealing to most companies. Over the next few years, we did indeed get some new MMOs, but most came and then went. Wildstar, The Secret World, The Matrix Online, Shadowbane, Asheron's Call 2, Star Wars Galaxies, The Lord of the Rings Online. Some of these games found minor levels of success, most of them shut down. The MMORPG was an extremely expensive genre to make, and since the majority of the player base was focused on a single game, it had a relatively low chance of giving a decent return on investment. you were unlikely to steal another game's players. The major MMO
Jesus Christ, I'm looking at this document and you just constantly see release date, died, release date, died, release date, died. It's just like all of these games are dead. They're freaking dead.
RPGs that did manage to rise in power were all offering something that Warcraft didn't. RuneScape didn't require a download, Guild Wars 2 was a buy once play forever game, or they were supported by huge franchises.
Oh man, this one hits too close to home, dude. Look at that. Oh man. I loved Firefall. Firefall was real cool. It was one of the few that I did play. I played a decent chunk of Firefall. Firefall was really fun. Firefall was really fun. And they had a really cool concept. They had a really cool concept as to how they were going to evolve the game. I think I have like a Firefall interview in my channel. Because I remember interviewing a dev over in Gamescom. Yeah, here it is. The audio is probably not great. This is like friggin' 2000. It was 8 years ago.
My name is David Williams. I'm a senior designer here at Red 5 Studios. We're here at Gamescom 2013 talking about Firefall.
So tell us a little bit about the world of Firefall.
Well, the world of Firefall...
Dude. Tell us a little bit about the world of... That's like one of the most basic... I think if I was to do an interview today, that would be the last thing that I would ever ask anyone. Tell us a little bit about the world of your game. It's such a terrible question now that I think back to it. And I think I asked that question so many times. It's terrible. It's a terrible fucking question. You interviewed him in PAX East? Yeah, dude. They were pretty cool. They were pretty chill. And I really liked the game.
Scrolls Online had Skyrim, Final Fantasy XIV had Final Fantasy, and the genre...
Oh, dude, WildStar. I also got to interview WildStar as well. Yeah, like, this is so interesting to me, because, like, there's a couple of games in here, like, look, wait. No, wait, I'm not sure if this one was, like... I think this one might have been, like, questions at the end, so it might not have been a proper interview. I'll start interview. No, I don't think I have an interview with these guys. But I did go to like an event, and then I made like I saw the gameplay, and then I was talking about it over a video. Yeah.
There will be like a marking in front of you that will show you.
I did do content on it, and I did watch a presentation on it.
Settled into this stable position for a while. The
EverQuest
5 major
Next looked
MMORPGs, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, The Elder Scrolls Online, Guild Wars 2, and RuneScape were the titans of the genre, with several smaller but still successful games floating around the edge. Star Wars The Old Republic, Neverwinter, Dungeons & Dragons Online, Lord of the Rings Online, Terra, and others sitting off to the sidelines. The gold rush, at least in the MMORPG design space, was finished, and plucky young designers moved on to different, less risky genres. If you're a game development company, at this point in time, you don't want to make an MMORPG. They're incredibly expensive, have a really long development time, and a very, very low chance of actually making any profit. Back when the gold rush was happening and people didn't know what would make money, it was worth it. But the research had been done, the R&D was finished, and people had discovered that a successful MMORPG took a hell of a lot of money to make. That gold rush was now happening in other games, battle royales. The mobile gaming market was making absolute strides and billions of dollars. The MMORPG genre had been solved design-wise, and that gold rush was over. Right up until it started again.
Yep.
By gold rush, I mean the moment...
I think it's also important to mention this, like, just because something has been established... Which is like obviously World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft took everything by storm. It was kind of like the perfect storm, the way in which it was developed. It is important to also mention that back then, there was a tremendous amount of passion from the World of Warcraft team. They were extremely passionate about the product that they were developing, and it showed all the way up until the end of Wrath of the Lich King. I mean, not exactly the end. I think that there were a couple of cracks in the armor. somewhere midway through Wrath of the Lich King, where you kind of start seeing it's like you kind of start seeing the passion waning there. At least from my experience, my thoughts on it, like when they start putting in the first store mount, when they start, the whole thing about friggin' Trial of the Crusader. And I know that a lot of people like Trial of the Crusader. I hate Trial of the Crusader raid. I thought it was one of the worst raids that team had done up until that point, because it was just not particularly creative. It was not a very creative raid, period. It's like, there's an arena, and bosses go in, bosses go out, done, right? It was not that great. And then on top of it, they're like, here's a 25-man, 10-man, then 25-man heroic and 10-man heroic, and there's 4 different lockouts for this thing, and then here's like a million different daily quests that you can do in preparation of this raid. That's, to me, when Blizzard started going down a path that I was like, I don't know about this. And it was still during my favorite expansion, which was Wrath of the Lich King, right? But it's like, as I was saying, just because they established something, right? They clearly established something. There was a passionate player base. There were passionate developers. There was everything there. I don't think it necessarily meant that they cracked the MMO formula. They just found a very effective one. They found one that was very effective and held on to player retention. And I think that in a lot of ways, that was also their downfall, because all they started focusing on was on maintaining that retention and that engagement and all of that stuff. And they ended up losing their edge because they weren't interested they weren't hungry anymore. It's the thing that, that what's the ingenuity drive? No, it's not ingenuity. Necessity drives innovation. I think that's the saying. I'm not sure. Remember, I'm not a native English speaker, so be gentle with me, but I think it is necessity drives innovation, or scarcity drives innovation, or desperation drives innovation. But basically, they were in what we call in Portugal, the fat cows, the time of the fat cows. Is that even a thing that we say in Portugal? Good God, I'm just like saying all kinds of random bullshit today. It's basically like it's the time of plenty. Like, they had the resources, they had the profits, they had everything. They weren't hungry for it anymore. They weren't like, it's like, no, we have it. It's fine. We're good. It's like, now it's time to relax. That's kind of like the attitude that they took with World of Warcraft, and they started like autopiloting it. Like, World of Warcraft, in my opinion, has been on autopilot pretty much since the end of Wrath of the Lich King. Pretty much since the end of Wrath of the Lich King, World of Warcraft has been on autopilot. And that is why it eventually ends up going downhill. So it's like, I don't think that any one MMO has actually cracked the formula, because when you crack the formula is when you actually reach the metaverse. It's when you think about like Sword Art Online, how in the anime Sword Art Online, eventually like all games were kind of like compatible, and you could take your character into all of these different games, like how Kirito takes his character from friggin' Sword Art Online into Fatal Bullet. It's not Fatal Bullet. The name of that game was Gun Gale Online. I think it was Gun Gale Online, whatever. How Kirito takes his character over there, and then he takes it to the fairy MMO and all of that. See, that's when you know you've cracked it. When the metaverse is established and you can actually like take your character with you across different games. That's the cracking of the MMO formula. This, what World of Warcraft did was just finding a very effective way, a way that was able to keep players playing the game and engaged for long periods of time. So yeah, I think that there are other, there's other MMOs that were developed since then. Obviously, he talks about Elder Scrolls Online, which we've played recently, talks about Guild Wars 2. And these MMOs have like their own appeal, and they do a lot of things better than World of Warcraft, because for all of its, for all the not glory, for all the praise that World of Warcraft PvP gets, World of Warcraft PvP is a fucking shit show. And I'm sorry if you disagree, but World of Warcraft PvP has been a fucking shit show ever since I've played that game. I was never able to take World of Warcraft PvP seriously, and to be quite frank, nobody should. Because Blizzard can't balance their way out of literally anything. They can't balance worth a fucking damn. Maybe they can balance StarCraft a little bit, even though I'm not too sure about even that. But, you know, on World of Warcraft, they can't balance shit. They were never able to balance shit. Okay, PvP is a friggin' shit show. Then their excuse is like, oh no, we balance around 3v3. In 3v3 things work. No, they fucking don't. 3v3, yeah, Rogue Mage Priest. Yeah, there you go. Boom, done. Problem solved. Yeah, right. Most of the best teams around, at least I think around like TBC or something like that, was like Rogue Mage Priest. It was Rogue Mage Priest was one of the best possible comps that you could potentially have. And there's always something in the game that is broken from a PvP standpoint. Whereas, for instance, you got PvP in Guild Wars 2, which, from my opinion, was way better balanced than World of Warcraft's ever was. Period. You know, like, if you want to go PvP, if you want to go serious PvP, sure, there's not that much, it doesn't have as big of an audience, but, like, Guild Wars nailed PvP down better than World of Warcraft ever could. You know? So they have that part of the formula. ESO nailed immersion down better than World of Warcraft ever could. ESO is way more immersive than World of Warcraft, in my opinion. And Final Fantasy XIV got the best story and also better combat than World of Warcraft.
Companies realise there's an excessive amount of money to be made, and over the last 6 months in the MMO world, we've seen some major movements from big companies and some interesting additions from smaller ones. If a game is solved, there's no point making any different moves, like tic-tac-toe. Once the winning combination is known, just copy it. And this is true right up until the winning combination stops winning. World of Warcraft is falling. Final Fantasy XIV is raising, and this switch in power is a symptom of a major new era in the MMO world. Not every single MMO player wants to play a single game forever.
Final Fantasy XIV's about to eat World of Warcraft's lunch. I gotta tell you, that is a good friggin' article title, dude. That's good. That's a good header right there.
They want to play them until they stop having fun and then move on to another one. Variety becomes the spice of life. Players want new experiences, and for the last few years this has meant players have cycled between the top 5 MMOs, occasionally trying the smaller ones, but now we seem to be reaching a player boredom boiling point. Every MMO player has tried all the top games, most of them have tried the smaller games, and the companies are realising the player base wants something new and are actually serious about playing a new game. Amazon are moving in with New World to capture the casual PvP crowd. Mortal Online 2 wants the hardcore PvP players. RuneScape Mobile wants the mobile market. Ashes of Creation is aiming to recreate that classic RPG feel. Bless Online has just released. League of Legends is making a...
Bless Online is just looking to get some money out of you. They don't even care. Bless Online is the I'll suck your dick for $5 of MMOs.
An MMO. Star Citizen is probably releasing another pre-release shit to make...
Star Citizen. Scammed citizen, more like it. Get fucking scammed, dude. You want a $1,000 ship, dude? Yeah.
More money. It may one day exist, it may not. Who knows?
The early days of the MMORPG boom were brought about because companies realised this new genre, the MMO, had an untapped player base and there was a lot of money to be made. Companies took risks, several companies failed, a few succeeded, and the early days were won by EverQuest, Ultima Online, Asheron's Call, World of Warcraft, RuneScape, Guild Wars. These games rose to the surface, some of them kept going for years and years after. The risk was just too big to take now. If you're a new company, making an MMO would likely bankrupt you. So the MMO sat back. Games companies enjoyed making vast amounts of profits, and players slowly became bored. The genre stagnated because it was too risky for any new company to enter. And this, ironically, made it worth entering. Because players wanted a new game. They hadn't had a new good game, in a hell of a long time. And suddenly, the money was there to be made again. The player base were crying out for a new game, and the risk suddenly became worth the reward. A healthy, unsolved meta is vital to the long-term success of anything competitive or creative. EverQuest and Ultimate were so close for so many years, and this meant they both focused on being the best versions of themselves because something about them was appealing. They didn't need to follow a known formula and become gentrified. Competition leads to innovation, invention, and creation. Once Warcraft began to dominate, design became do what works and copy that, not do what we're good at or create something new. Now, with Warcraft failing, suddenly the top 5 MMOs are actually leveling out again, and this is forcing them to all focus on what they are specifically good at, not just copying a known formula, because the formula isn't working as well as it used to. We have returned to the point where risk is worth.
I missed the Rage of Alone animation, by the way. I just wanted to bring that up. I just saw him do Rage of Alone, and I was like, oh, I missed that animation. That was a cool animation.
Worth it. Renaissance means rebirth, revitalization, or a renewed interest in something. It can be a slow burn change or a dramatic shift. In most cases, it's a combination of both. In the MMORPG genre, it's the slow creeping boredom caused by multiple years of industry dominance and solved gameplay design causing the player base to wish for something new, combined with a sudden shift in the player base away from Warcraft and toward other games such as Final Fantasy, which has made companies realize the genre is being shaken up. The gold rush is here again. The risks are worth it. World of Warcraft solved MMO design for many years. As far as player counts go, clones were made to emulate the success, and a lucky few managed to survive. The genre became too much of a risk to enter. Battle Royale games made more money for less risk. Mobile gaming was far more profitable. But now the player base is bored, the power has shifted, and the companies have realised while mobile gaming is still the best choice financially, the MMORPG genre isn't completely done. It's not as solved as they thought. Companies, once again, are taking risks. I have long believed the last year has been the start of a new golden age for the MMORPG, but what do you think? Are we seeing the start of a renaissance, or will these new games fade into obscurity like so many before them, and will we sit back into the boring status quo? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Another massive thank you to the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who keep the channel going. You can support from only £1 a month. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, and our Discord. And as always, have a great day.
So I actually think that the games that are going to be, the MMOs that people are going to be playing are actually the MMOs that have been established for a while now. I think that what is happening is those MMOs have been evolving into their own thing. Like, even though they probably started trying to get a piece of World of Warcraft's pie, right? I think a lot of them have kind of grown. And this is just like from my recent experience, just like going back and playing different MMOs that I haven't played in forever, pretty much, because I kind of walked away from the MMO genre after getting disappointed in World of Warcraft, right? So it could be because I'm also reasonably giving a fresh take on a lot of these MMOs, because I mean, even Final Fantasy XIV, I started playing it in like 2019, so like 2 years ago. That's essentially when I began giving it a second shot, and I did so because I just missed playing an MMO, and it completely captured me. Completely captured me because, Final Fantasy XIV has been working and iterating and improving itself, and they're doing what they do best, which is telling a fantastic story and making cool-ass raids, and all of the other content that you have in 14, right? And now stepping away from 14 for a little bit, I mean, I didn't really step away. I'm still playing it actively, even after doing this stuff. We're going to go and we're going to play my Dragoon a little bit more. And we're going to go into Bosnia, which is interesting that music came up. But as I was saying, it's like trying out other MMOs, going into ESO and all that. It's like it definitely showed me, wow, ESO has evolved quite a bit. And even Guild Wars has also evolved quite a bit in some aspects. And I think that those are going to be the games that are going to really benefit from what is happening right now with the World of Warcraft player base, because those are games that are established. They know what they're good at. They know where their development excels and what are the things that they can bring to players. Like, ESO knows that they're going to be bringing these massive stories, immersive stories, these dungeons that they got, and all of that stuff. And to me, ESO is all about the immersion, like making a world that the player just wants to hang out in, right? That's what they're doing. And then you got Guild Wars going after, I think Guild Wars is one of those things where it's like, it's all about the open world. You go into the world and you just do activities in the world and you just have a good time. That's the Guild Wars experience. You're just roaming through the open world, and other players that you encounter, they're just there and everybody's participating in the same events dynamically, and everything just kind of works, which is a lot of fun. It's a really good experience, right? And then you have Final Fantasy XIV doing its story, which again is going to be the biggest drawing thing to it, even though the raids are also a very big part of it as well. So it's like each of these MMOs that has been around for a while, they've learned. And like when you're talking at something like a New World, for instance, right? That is an MMO that I see it's going to be really popular in that first month. I don't know if they have what it takes to make it past that second month, though. I think there's going to be a significant drop-off after that first month, maybe 2 months, depending on how long people take to get the end game, to experience the end game of the MMO and all that. I think that there's going to be a significant drop-off afterwards. I'm probably going to be a part of that first wave to at least check it out, play a little bit more. We've played the alpha, and I'm like, I think there's enough here for me to entertain myself for a while. How long I will play, I don't know. It remains to be seen. But then you have Lost Ark. Now, Lost Ark is more interesting to me because Lost Ark has like a different... You have that more action RPG look to it. It looks like it has really cool animation. So Lost Ark is very appealing to me. The problem with Lost Ark is that it's all of the buzz around Lost Ark, I feel like, happened back when it initially released in Korea, right? That's when you saw a lot of buzz around that game. And I think that game is going to suffer wildly from not having a worldwide release. But I think that overall, like I've said in my previous video as well, the MMORPG genre is definitely in for a bit of a renaissance. I do think there's going to be a lot of companies putting their foot forward and trying to establish a different kind of MMO. And we'll see how that pans out, but I do think that the people that are really going to benefit from this are the MMOs that have been established, because they know what they're doing, they know what they're good at, and they're going to be the ones that are going to be reaping in the lion's profit of the lion's share of whatever World of Warcraft is bleeding. And who knows, maybe World of Warcraft might be able to, make a comeback. I highly doubt it, but, it is possible. But we'll see.